Hello, I'm Irma Baker. Welcome to our show. We're sponsored by the Mature Services RSVP Volunteer Program, which serves Summit and Medina counties. And we like to bring you a kaleidoscope of interesting organizations, individuals, and activities in our viewing area. Well, have you ever felt you were in a place that was haunted? Stay tuned. Our guests today are the Haunted Housewives.
RSVP of Summit County has been making a difference in our community since 1972. RSVP volunteers are increasing the quality of life by participating in programs and organizations that provide important services to the community. RSVP matches personal interests and skills with opportunities to serve. If you're interested in adding more meaning to your life and improving the lives of others, please call 330-253-4597, extension 166.
Welcome back. Our guests today are, as I said before, the Haunted Housewives, and they are Teresa Argy and Kathy Weber. Kathy and Teresa, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us, Irma.
Thank you.
Well, we're really excited about this. I think, everyone at some time gets that creepy feeling that maybe there's someone or something else in a place. Tell us a little bit about how you're local housewives. How in the world did you get started into doing paranormal investigations?
Well, I like what you said. You've always felt that you've had that feeling before. I think everybody's had that feeling before, and usually when you have that feeling, we believe that there is something there. We got started both at a very young age. I won't go into that, that's a whole big story, but I got started in a young age. My grandfather was interested in it and kind of got me into it. And then as I got older, it was at a time when you couldn't talk about it. It was a time when if you talked about ghosts or spirits, people thought you were crazy. Luckily, things changed, and as the internet exploded and started uniting people with the same interests from all over the country, it became something a little more open. You could reach out and find people who were also interested in it, who didn't think you were crazy. And then the beauty of reality television, I tell you, is you can say what you want about ghost hunters, but if it wasn't for that show, a lot of us wouldn't be sitting here today, because that brought it out into the open and people could start a dialogue and found out that this does happen to everyday people and you're not crazy to talk about it. So I met Kathy. I actually kind of stalked her and had to kind of convince her to work with me. She's a storyteller and a historian. She had a business in Willoughby, a beautiful town, and I knew that she was interested in helping the community and the paranormal. She started a fundraiser that she did with some women that I worked with, and I met her through that, and I just kept bugging her until she agreed to team up with me, and the Haunted Housewives were born.
Mm-hmm. Kathy, how did you feel when Teresa started bugging you about working with her?
Well, I too have been doing this for a long time. I mean, my first paranormal investigation was 1992, I think. But I was never on a team. Teresa was a real team investigator. I mean, she came from a paranormal team of people, and I was like, not put off, but more like, this is not my bag. I was in the Willoughby Ghost Walk. I like telling stories about ghosts. Everybody likes a good ghost story. So I started to make a business from that. But she wanted me to get into this other part of ghosts, really looking for them actively all the time. And at first I was I called myself the reluctant paranormal investigator. But as time went on, she wore me down, and next thing you know, I'm calling her, what can we do? We have to go ghost hunting. I can't stand this anymore. We have to get out of the house, let's go. So once you start to look for the unknown, it's kind of like, you're not obsessed, but you've got to find out what's happening. Why did I hear that noise? What was that? What was that voice? Where did it come from? So it keeps you going. You've got to keep going back and looking again and again.
Well, to me it seems like it's a big jump to go from feeling that there are paranormal experiences or having paranormal experiences and leaping up to say, well, we're going to go out and find them. We're going to investigate them. You call yourselves paranormal investigators. So did you have a lot of fear to overcome?
When it comes to fear, I found that the living are much more frightening than the dead. I wasn't scared. Of course, my first paranormal experiences I had as a child, they scared me. But I like that. I like that feeling. I like that exhilaration. I was more scared when I was younger of getting in trouble for doing what I was doing. And of course, I was doing, I was sneaking into places I shouldn't have been. I did all the things I tell kids not to do. But back then, there were few options. The fear of jumping into actually investigating, I didn't have it. But looking back, I was probably a little bit reckless because I found out the hard way that it's not all just fun and games, and you do have to take it seriously, and there are dangers to it. Not as much as is seen on some TV shows, but there is things that you have to be careful about. Mostly you have to know what you're doing. So with me, it was trial and error and learning as I went along, and the whole thing was a learning experience. And I've changed my way of thinking and my way of doing things over the years. We both have.
Right.
Things that we believed 3 or 4 years ago, that was kind of our mantra, what we did. We do it totally different now because
Right.
we've learned as we've gone. But we have definitely found out it's the dangers of paranormal investigating. There is a little bit of a spiritual danger you have to watch for. Once you open that door, you don't know what's going to come through. So you really do have to be careful. But for the most part, it's not so bad. But it's the living that you really have to be scared about, not the dead.
Kathy,
And as
what
long
about
as
you?
Oh, sorry. As long as you never look at it as a game, I think it gets to the point where some people look at it as a game of some sort. We're going to catch some ghosts, kind of a game. As long as you realize what you're doing, if you're really earnestly seeking to communicate with the spirit world, and they may reciprocate, you have to be aware of what you're doing and ready to receive their message. And I think a lot of people, when they realize it's not a game, they do get afraid. Her and I know neither one of us is very much afraid of what we are encountering. I know it's something we don't understand. Sometimes it keeps me up at night where I'm wondering, how could that have possibly happened? But we've talked about, you can say I'm crazy, but I do know when I have something personally happen to me. And I will take that to my grave. I can tell you what has happened to me, and you can think in the back of your head, oh, she's a little wacky. But those are things that have actually occurred that I cannot explain, and that's why you keep seeking.
Well, give us an example of something that happened to you that made you feel, one, that this was a paranormal experience, and also that you could communicate with this spiritual element.
Well, some of the things that we've both experienced together, one of the most fantastic things I ever experienced for the first time was a disembodied voice. And we were together when we heard the disembodied voice. So we both experienced it, and we do know it happened. It occurred at Ohio State Reformatory, where we were done for the night. It was like 3:30 in the morning, packed everything up, on our way back to meet our other friends that were in the prison to drive back home, and we both clearly heard a woman cry out, loudly and prolonged. And we just stood there dead in our tracks, looking at each other like, what was that, and why do we not have a recorder going? Because we had nothing. So I have nothing but my personal experience to back it up. I know it happened. She knows it happened. We both heard it with our ears. So that's one example of many that have occurred that you can't explain, and you know there's got to be either an explanation or it's something unknown that we're probably never going to solve.
Teresa, what about you?
Well, besides having experiences, because Kathy and I both believe that presenting evidence, collecting evidence, is not nearly as important as having a personal experience, which makes us different from 99% of all paranormal teams out there. They're all about the evidence, and we have found in our wisdom that after our years of experience, that it doesn't matter. You can have the best picture, the best video, and the best EVP, and unless somebody was there with you
To witness it.
they don't have to believe it, because anything can be fake these days. So I am all about the personal experience, and I had a very profound personal experience as a child where I saw a ghost. Of course, I didn't know it was a ghost. I thought it was a little girl. I had nothing to believe that it was a ghost, and it wasn't until later that the girl I described in the window of the house that I was looking at had died years earlier. So these experiences, I don't have any proof of that, but you can't take that away from me. But what you were saying before about the dangers in a personal experience, those experiences, they were profound, and we'll remember them forever. We don't have evidence to present that they happened, but we know that they happened. But sometimes things happen that aren't just, ooh, this happened to me. Sometimes you have to be careful, because some things can happen that aren't so pleasant. We've been scratched.
See,
had our
we do
hair
have a
pulled.
picture of the time I was scratched across my back, and that really happened. But if I show you a picture of a scratch on my back, you're going to say, well, that could have happened any time.
Even if-
Who
yeah.
knows what did it? She could have backed into something. But we
Even
were
if you
all
have
there
a
when
video
it
of it,
happened.
even if you, and I've seen videos of it appearing on screen, and I've seen that on TV, that can still be faked.
Right.
So, you know, we're not about, we're about the story. I took her cue as a storyteller. We're there to tell the story of the dead. We want to tell the spirit story. What is the ghost story? What is their story? It's not about, look at this, I've got the best EVP and the best picture.
Right. And we are honestly, earnestly, responsibly, respectfully trying to communicate with the dead. That's truly what we're trying to do, is to find out their story and if they have a message and if there's a reason that we're able to speak to them.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. Do you feel then that the spirit world is eager to communicate or needing to communicate or wanting to communicate?
I think that the spirit world is just like any other people. You're going to come across people that want to communicate, that are chatty and talkative. I'm sure we'll be very chatty spirits after we pass. And then there are reluctant spirits. I don't think that it's as easy as people think. At least for some spirits, it seems to be very difficult for them to communicate. And for other spirits, it seems to be very easy for them to communicate. And then also with people. Some people, it seems to be very easy for them to hear the communication, to be on the receiving end of the communication, and for others, I don't know, if they don't get it. And that's where, you know, having a psychic or a medium comes in handy. We are not psychic or mediums. Kathy is somewhat sensitive, and she does pick things up, and we do pick things up as any woman does. We are the haunted housewives. We use our women's intuition and
Our mother skills.
everything like that in our work, and it seems to help. But I think that some spirits want to communicate, but there has to be a reason when you get so many EVPs that are whispered. I mean, I think
Or
if they
screamed.
or screamed. I think that it must be difficult, at least on some level, for most spirits to communicate, or they would be speaking more clearly. I don't know. We don't know. That's one of the great mysteries.
Yeah, and we feel also with spirit communication, sometimes I don't think anybody's ever asked them what their name was. We go to a new place that no one's ever investigated and we ask, what's your name? They're like, no one has ever asked me this. And also believing, as tagging on what Teresa said, if you believe, like many of us, I mean, I'm a practicing Christian, I believe the spiritual realm is all around me at all times. And we can easily ask to invoke the Holy Ghost. That seems to be a safe thing. We assume the Holy Ghost is always with us, always present, always working with us. But why would you assume there's no other spiritual activity around you at all times? So to say, are you there? And for somebody to say, yes, I am, why are we so shocked? Because, you know, there's nothing dark or scary to know that your great-grandmother is standing there saying, yes, I'm right here, right now. Because we do believe that our ones who have passed on are with us in some way, in a spiritual way. But to get a note from them or a little bit of a message is kind of exciting.
Has either of you ever felt you've been contacted by an ancestor or a relative who has passed?
That's funny.
Yeah, I feel that, and I think that this is something that everybody could probably relate to, and I tell this to people who say they don't believe in ghosts. I think, and again, what we say, these are our theories. This is what we believe, what we think.
There is
we
no
don't-
expert in this field.
we can't prove anything that we
No.
say, but this is what we believe. I believe that one form of spirit communication that happens to everybody is dreams. I believe that our loved ones, especially, contact us through dreams all the time. And I think that people will know a difference between a dream when you just happen to be thinking about your father who's passed away 10 years and you happen to dream about him, or when you have a dream about your father that he's in it and he's talking to you and he's got something to say. There's a different type of dream. And when you think about it, these are the way our loved ones can communicate with us, and it's not scary. If my dad appeared to my children in the middle of the night at the end of their bed and said, hey, it's Grandpa, they'd be terrified. But if they come to him in a dream, which is funny because actually it's happened, but if they come in a dream, if I dream about my great-grandmother or my father or my grandfather, in a dream it's like you wake up and, oh, I had a dream about Grandpa, and you have a good feeling. But if they appeared to you in the middle of the night in the dark, you'd be terrified. So I think that in that sense, yes, I have communicated with many of my relatives. I believe my grandfather, my mother's father, is with me all the time. I think that he's like not my guardian angel, because that's different, but he's with me all the time. I think this is the path he wanted me to pursue.
Well, these are very personal experiences you've been talking about now, but when you go out on a paranormal investigation, you do use a lot of tools, and you've brought us a whole table full of tools here. What are some of the ones you could tell us about?
We use a lot of tools, and our tools, again, because we are housewives, we are not financed by any network, and we don't have a sponsor. So we use all sorts of different tools. We use audio recorders, all different kinds of audio recorders. We use cameras, and again, none of these are ghost hunting tools except for maybe the Mel meter. These are just tools that have been adapted to be used in ghost hunting. So we use infrared cameras, we use regular cameras, we use voice recorders. These are things that college students use. We also use religious articles. We used holy water and blessed objects. We use sage and candles. We use meters that detect electromagnetic fields and temperature changes. We use tarot cards. We also use dowsing rods, Ouija boards, and crystals. So I know a lot of people don't like that, but to us, there is no different from using a Ouija board to communicate with the spirit than it is to use a voice recorder. There is no difference at all. The Ouija board has got a bad name and a bad rap because of some stories, but there is no more danger in using a Ouija board than there is using a regular recorder. Just throw that out there. But there are a couple things on the table that we definitely use only for, they have been modified and made to be used for ghost hunting only. And that would be the SB7, which is a spirit box, and the Mel meter. But basically, you know, this is stuff that anybody can get. You can get it at a hardware store. You can find it online. You know, this is nothing out of the ordinary that we use. It's just how you use it and your intent.
Well, tell us about some of the places that you've been, some of the places you've investigated. I know you brought along some pictures to show us. So talk a little bit about the places you've investigated.
We have some, they're going to put the pictures up. We've got some great places. One of our favorite places, and again, we're parahistorians, so we tell the story of the place and the people that were there, but we also are very involved in our community, and we do fundraisers. We do a lot of fundraisers. And Kathy does an amazing job. She sets this fundraiser up at the Lake County Historical Society every year, and there's a picture of it right now. It's a beautiful place. You probably know more about it. Kathy, why don't you talk about it?
Well, every year, the first Friday in November, we do what we call a paranormal exploration of the Lake County Historical Society. And that's where we invite anybody, even people who are interested, who've always wondered how to ghost hunt. So we have people who are very experienced leading people who maybe have never done this before. And the place never disappoints us every year.
Now, this is the Waverly Hills Sanatorium in Louisville, Kentucky. And this is a very favorite place to us. This was an old tuberculosis hospital, and we had some amazing experiences there the first time and the second time we went there. It's a beautiful place, 200,000 square feet of just an enormous building, and lots of tragedy and death, but lots of stuff. This is the Lemp Mansion in St. Louis. Boy, we had a great time. Kathy and I were down there in the spring. The Lemp Mansion has a wonderful history. It was owned by the Lemp Brewery moguls. That family owned this, and the place is amazing. And again, the history is what drove us there. Amazing place, lots of spirit activity. This is an old picture of the Villisca Axe Murder House in Villisca, Iowa. This is the scene of an unsolved murder of 8 people who were axed to death in 1912, and the killer was never found. And it's a tiny little 460 square foot house that's extremely haunted. As a private residence. This is Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum in Weston, West Virginia. It's where Kathy actually had her experience.
That's where I was scratched, was in the men's lockdown ward.
And saw a shadow man.
Right.
Beautiful, beautiful building though. And that's only one of several buildings. This is the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado. This is the place that inspired Stephen King to write The Shining. And it's an amazing place. It's beautiful. But it's very haunted, and they really embrace their ghosts there. This is Zor Village, isn't it? I don't know if the people can see this, but if you can see
it from here.
In the doorway of this is a little restaurant down in historic Zor Village, Ohio. and we were doing an investigation. I just happened to be on a break standing outside when I took the picture. I was outside with one person, and the only other people in the building were not in this building. They were 2 buildings down, but you can clearly see
There's
a
somebody standing
big shadow
inside.
figure
Yeah.
in that door. Now see, this is like evidence, but if you weren't there, you could say that's just a person in the doorway. But I swear there was nobody
We
in that
were
doorway.
really surprised.
Yeah, that was amazing. And of course, the Queen Mary in Long Beach, California. Amazing, beautiful ship at the height of sea voyage when this was the luxury way to travel. And there's so much history of this place. It's absolutely beautiful. And it's docked in Long Beach as a tourist attraction. Kathy and I had a great time when we were out in LA visiting that. Now this here, this is a local place. This is the old schoolhouse in Mayfield Village, Ohio. And I used to do classes there, and I would teach hands-on investigation techniques at this place. I took this picture to show people how easy it is to fake evidence. See all those orbs? All those spirit orbs? That's just snow.
Oh.
And this here, this is a